Hello, hello. Welcome to the Pisces season. Time to dive deep into past lives and karma. And we're joined by a special guest, past life regressionist, Jeroen DeWitt today.
And we're learning about our 3 different techniques of how to tap into your past lives. Let's get into it.
Let's go for it.
LOL.
I don't just talk stuff and repeat stuff. I'm living this stuff.
And you can thank me for covering your astro.
Leading out loud. Leading out loud. Leading out loud.
Hello and welcome to Leading Out Loud, a psychic and astrology shift show that promises to always tell you the truth and predict that we were wrong. We have an exciting topic this week. Just in time for the Pisces season, we're going to dive deep into past lives in this episode. But first, let's go over our common and well-known and well-branded Scott's Collective Read and our Zodiac weather. Scott, what are you picking up on?
Well, I mean, obviously, week to week might sound very similar because we're going through a process, we're going through an evolution. So sometimes that change is quite slow. So it's going to be very similar to last week's forecast too. But a lot of what we've been tapping into is past. So I noticed a lot of our discussions have been talking about the past, past life regressions like we're talking about today, but also even past relationships and this incarnation. So I think there's gonna be a lot of healing from the past, and not so much healing, but recognition. So, we've done a lot of the healing in 2024. And as I've been, forecast for 2025 is gonna be a great, year of movement. But sometimes in order to get things moving, we got to push things out, push things through. And so I think, diving into our past, we're going to feel a lot of that. Your past, relationships that maybe didn't resolve well might start resurfacing this week. And, even issues of the past within your current relationships might start resurfacing to give you more focus and more perspective on things that you should be tweaking in your life, right? Because these tweaks can actually really refine your perspective and vibration. So you can actually start mingling with things that you want to be mingling with. So there might be a lot of clear space, I would say, the next month or so to be able to do so. So it is time to start embracing the past. And I think when people talk about being so, presently focused and don't think about the future too much and don't think about the past too much, it can be somewhat self-defeating because I think, and self-limiting, because sometimes it really is good to embrace and pull the keys out from the past, that maybe keys that we've missed of lessons and enlightenment that can help us unlock the future. So it's time to get on board and kind of like, for me, my past is like notches on my belt. And so if we can look at our past this way and understand it's brought us where we're at today, and we have that with peace, then the future is just our fingers, in the palm of our hands, so to speak. So what do you think, Christopher?
What does it look like to see the past? I mean, how do you know in your mind's eye that it's about the past when you pick up on psychic trends like that? I'm just curious. Do you have symbols? It's like game of charades.
For example, yeah, it's simple sometimes, but we're stupid. So you're talking about this incarnation past, like there's many times people are missing somebody or a past ex that comes in your mind. And I always say you're not missing the person, like you're missing the lesson that the person brings to you. So a lot of times that past relationship will come up as a symbol psychologically in the brain. And so it's time for us to extract, what does this mean? What does karmic relationship mean for me? What did I miss in the relationship? So yeah, it could come symbolically, it can come as a reminder, a memory of the past too, that sometimes we get memories of the past of things that we really enjoyed, and that's could be a reflection that we need to bring more of that into our current life, in the present. And so yeah, there's different variables of that when it comes to the current incarnation.
Well, I mean, you use a psychic. I was just trying to get in your brain. Like, what's the experience like for you? How is it communicated to you that people are caught in the past?
Oh, like if I'm reading somebody in a sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like I can almost like I sense it. Like I could feel a residue,
Gotcha.
especially when I'm reading a trajectory. Like when I can see a trajectory, I can like see it like it's like a wave like this, and I have like a little marker where their soul is at now, so I can see all the data from the past, and then I can go beyond the from the start of this incarnation to past incarnations and so forth, and read that and data and energy too. So, yeah, but I'm very I don't know, maybe you can identify with this too, Christopher. I'm very claircognizant lately, so I think the more you develop your abilities, you just kind of know. So like when I talk to a lot of my clients, just kind of like, I just know like you're over this or you're not over this, or you need to work on that. And so it could be different for everybody, and every reader can have a different strengthening of their clair, right? Be clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, or claircognizant.
Yeah, I just think it's cool that we start sharing kind of what it looks like in our third eye when stuff happens, so people kind of identify it. Because there's nothing in there's nothing in psychic school that tells you that stuff that I've noticed. And like I have a similar. My guides will literally show me a calendar fly out, and I think it's my imagination, so it's done the way I would do it.
Yeah.
that's something people need to know. Like it'll be presented to you exactly the way you would have done it.
Right.
Like if it were you, but you didn't ask. The difference is you didn't ask for it to be done, right? Like
Right.
tells you. So I'll have a calendar fly out, and it'll be like, ooh, I'll see like a glowing thing over here, and I'm look over. It's like, and then I have to look at a real calendar, like what's the date of that third weekend of the month of August? Because I don't know, you know what I mean? Like I don't know what dates will be on that time, and then it'll give me numbers, but they just give me the spot where it's going to be at,
Right.
which is interesting. So
Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes too, like I'll get like a movie strip play out too. You know what I mean? Like I can see the person going through that, and then like I like to kind of remote view. So I feel like remote viewing isn't just for the present; it's also for the past. I like to kind of like hop into the scene and see the scene play out. Like because a lot of times in order to read someone effectively, we got to understand like what do they feel in the moment, how are they processing it, and how can I express the information that would go in the line and train of thought of their thoughts and perspectives. So a lot of times I like to kind of remote view the scenario and then see how they're receiving the information, how they're processing it. So almost like I'm living it, the way they lived it in a sense. So I love to do that too in my sessions.
that's cool. Well, clicking astrology, I just want to share that because I think it's interesting to get inside your head. Let's leave it there. Astrology says the past also. I mean, Pisces is the past. Basically, Pisces is past lives. Pisces is also subconscious, which is prior to conscious, just before conscious, right? So
Right.
pre in that sense. And really, there's no such thing as past. There's just like before, right? Like,
Right.
before in sequence of learning, there's before or steps. So I like the step system. But we're in the age of Pisces now, and this is a big one because this is pretty much the wrap up of the age of Pisces. This Pisces season is the wrap up of the age of Pisces. When I say that, I mean from this, it's just like carry on, carry out the things you learned, implement it through the whole world. So there's people who are like on the cutting edge of that, which would be, I think, you and I and the practitioners of modern age. We're on top of that. And I think the major lesson of the age of Pisces was, y'all, because we're coming out of the age of Aries. There's a whole world beyond this one. That was pretty much the lesson. And by the way, there's creation energy, which you call Christ consciousness, of which then one church like claimed ownership of that whole idea.
Right.
But and that's it. So it's the recognition of that we exist in other planes, right? So I call this particular Pisces season from the me-go to the we-go. And the me-go is my little term for our ego, like in the age of Aries. Our ego in the age of Aries was me, 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 right? And you might
Right.
say, hasn't that been the case in the age of Pisces? Yes. We haven't actually learned until now. Like it took to the very end of age of Pisces to get there.
Right.
And Pisces is two fish swimming both ways. It's this idea that there's more than you out there, buddy. The we go. It's not just you, it's we. It's always we. We're connected to something somewhere all the time. So I think there's a new plurality ego that's going to sort of be born this month. Also this month, which is interesting, we have Mars going direct next Sunday, this Sunday. Now, this is going to be an interesting topic because, Mars has been retrograde for so long, people probably just think they've aged. Okay, like that's probably what it is. Because when Mars goes retrograde, you just kind of feel uninspired, right? It's sort of like, I don't know, it's like landing on a different planet with heavier gravity. You're just like, everything's heavier. You're less inspired to do stuff. You're cranky because all of your ego triggers are coming up. And Mars is retrograded into Cancer, which is our emotions. So this is like, the part of us that like, just like, basically cries out. The part of the ego that just whines and cries and moans and groans because it doesn't want to deal with the emotions in the situation. It just wants to deal with the solution, right? Like, just get me to the bottle. Just get me to the thing. So Mars has been unplugging us from emotional reactions. And then before that, unplugging us from heart desire. And it finally goes direct on Sunday, which I think is going to change the vibe. I think next week we're going to be feeling like spring. We're going to be feeling like a lot of excitement in the air. And that's mostly that we just got our libido back, That's the thing. Libido has been repressed, so people are not taking out their attention, you know what I mean? With Mars retrograde. So I think Mars direct is the big, big thing. And, the other thing that's cool about this Pisces season is the North Node is in Pisces. This is the first time the North Node has been in Pisces since 2005. Which is when I started my last brand, interestingly enough. So think about 2005, 2006, everyone watching, what started in your life? What was the big change that year? What was the big shift in direction? Because that was when we went on this direction that we were just on. And that direction that we were on for the last 18 years, by the way, was healing your karmic wounds, So for the last 18 years, you haven't failed. You haven't dropped the ball. You have relived your past lives. And as a result, learned or didn't learn, and we're done now. So I predict that now, going forward, we're here to live the life we were born to live, which is the fun one, the one that you
Right.
want to seriously enjoy. So it's a very powerful Pisces season. I think we're going to see more change in this one Pisces season than you've ever seen before.
Right. And I love that you say that too, because I feel like, even in the Pisces era, I feel like, we no longer need the dictator in our lives, no longer need a savior. We no longer need someone to rule over us in a sense. So I also feel a breaking down of that, intellectual modality of just like, I'm self-sufficient. That's sovereignty, not to say being anarchist. I'm not going that way with it, but just the fact that we are understanding now that, we don't need someone to oversee what we're doing, that we are the overseers, and using that, awareness to really connect with other people too. And I love the we go energy. I totally feel that as well moving forward with that. And, I do feel even with our, the collective right now and with the way the world is, I've been saying for a long time, you got to break down and break through. So, we're starting to see things being broken down. We had to be separated for a period of time to look at the diversity and the extreme dichotomy that we have within our species, so then we can actually rearrange and come back together whole again. So although it's very chaotic times, as 2025, I always predicted 2025 would be very chaotic, but also a lot of movement and goodness too. It's only for us to come full circle to look at things from a better perspective. So definitely agree with the we go. Absolutely. Not needing a dictator or savior, someone above us in a sense.
You know what's
that we
interesting?
are.
So I actually think that, I don't know if it's always this way, but that dictator was Age of Aries.
Or
The Age of
yes,
Aries is
yes,
still going on through the Age of Pisces.
yes,
We hadn't
right.
cut out the Age of Aries. That's the
Yeah,
dictator. And I think because Pisces is such a marshmallow sign, Aries was still conquering Pisces in the Age of Pisces. And it's only now the very end of Age of Pisces that we finally get rid of the Age of Aries bullshit
right.
and implement the Age of Pisces. Now, I think we'll be actually implementing Pisces all through the Age of Aquarius. I mean, the implementation of what we learned. So if you think about an eon or an era, an age, you're learning through that age. You're not necessarily implementing.
Right.
So I think we implement almost an age later, which
Right.
means that we probably won't until the age of it'll be the age of Pisces. Is that right? No, it'll be age of Capricorn. So the age of Capricorn, God, what will that be? But I'm on another planet by then. Um, get off this rock from the sun, third rock from the sun. But it won't be till the age of Capricorn that you probably see all the Age of Aquarius discoveries put into law, put into practice, put into full-on business, that sort of thing.
You secured it. Yeah. Yes. It's
Yeah,
secured by then, thankfully.
yeah.
So, mhm.
Capitalized and shut down. So, all right. So, in a nutshell, what's your third eye prediction for next week? What do you feel it's going to be like?
You know, so basically, I did a lot of predictions when it comes to collective and the world stuff, and those are starting to unfold. I actually got a lot of people like, I'm unfollowing you. Why would you say this? And now all of a sudden, it's like now it's being shown that that's happening, especially with the admission with the war, the planes, and all that negligence and so forth. So, I really feel within the next week, within the world, I think there'd be a lot of people be putting the pieces together. What's happening in the collective, and I'm not really talking about Republican, Democratic, and that's the whole charade anyways. I think it really is about understanding that we're being duped overall, whether you're whatever party you're voting for. So, but at the same time, we'll feel this, but also understand we're on a karmic journey here, that we're all experiencing these things for a reason. It's also awakening a lot of our past karma that we have within when we look at certain aspects of our world. So I think a lot of people will start identifying this, but those who are on the spiritual journey will start identifying this and resolving that. Once we resolve that internal karma and deficit from our karma in a sense, then we actually can start seeing things differently and knowing how to maneuver around our world. So I feel like there's a beginning of this happening within internally, but for those who are in the spiritual walk and a spiritual, path in that sense. But I really feel like more of a unification of idea and perspective. I feel more so next year, both individually and collectively. So it's a beginning of such. It's not all of a sudden going to explode, but we're going to start seeing beginning momentum of such. So individually, I would actually be very open to, other ideas, thinking outside the box, right? And that's why we're doing the show today about past life regressions, because when we fully clear and heal the past and the deprivations from our past, then we can actually really move forward, and it broadens our perspective to see things more acutely, more fundamental, but also more objective.
I think I agree with you. I think the biggest change next week will be the individual.
Mhm.
I feel like actually what I sense is that people are just going to not care about the world. I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that they, if you discovered like free energy, free energy tomorrow, and you found a way to like cure the world from powers of fuel, you wouldn't give a crap about Donald Trump or anything going on. You'd just be so obsessed with that mission that you have. I feel that people are going to be coming into their mission, realizing what their mission is. In other words, what their soul has always wanted to do, and realizing that that's more important than anything they've been putting attention into in the world. And so I think people are actually going to become hyper spiritual, but not spirit won't get the credit for it. They're just going to call it a vision or a way to change the world or a way to share their gifts. But in essence, it's what they in heaven decided that they were going to do. So I think we're going to kind of go to a real personal. I mean, that's part of the we go too. Part of the we go is that people realize that they're here to make a difference.
Right.
And everyone does. When you get past your problems and you have nothing to fight about, then it's like, well, now what?
Right.
The left is like, let's make a difference.
And that's the thing too. People think that if I focus on my own individual life, then it's not helping the collective. Like that's not true, because I see the human species as like one organism, and that we have to illuminate our strength and power to keep our species whole, to keep our organism healthy, to fight against all those things that are depriving our species. So when you're doing and living your essence and your truth in your life, and that's affecting people around you, and it keeps spreading like wildfire, we can actually eliminate the cancer, so to speak, of our species. So you have to be vibrant. You have to be, expressing your soul purpose. You have to be, going out there and living and making your life complete, because that will also inspire others around you, which then, everybody else will catch on, will spread like wildfire too. We just can't sit back and allow the cancer to affect us. And we're just like, oh, I'm so mad and I don't know what to do. And then we become unproductive. So it does start with the self. It does start with that individual realization and bringing that essence, because our energy will illuminate other parts of our species.
Your household. Yeah. It's like one light worker per family, from what I can tell, and currently they still don't see me that way. They see me as the problem, so it's funny. We'll see how that's going to be the end, the way it ends. But the point is, like, there's not a lot of people who are like in the light, in their heart, in their dreams and mission to begin with. That's rare. And that's what light working is, that you're working from your heart. So I think you people don't realize it, but you have an influence on the people at the bus stop, the people in, McDonald's. If you buy a McDonald's sandwich, anywhere you go, you're spreading that light just by being yourself.
Yeah, I agree.
Little moments, yeah.
People don't realize that vibrance is so infectious too. Just like someone could come in and destruct and be chaotic, and that energy can be infectious, so can your vibrancy of what you're doing in your own individual lives, because you're also participating with others in your species, what you're illuminating, whatever it might be. So you're raising their frequency and energy. So yeah, we can't a lot. I'm speaking to a lot of empaths, Christopher, as you know, a lot of empaths like, I can't focus on just me, because what about everybody else? And it's like, you're not solving anything if you're not living for the self first. So.
Yeah, and we're only going to do this for others for a while. I mean, if you follow the Ascended Master Path or whatever, you end up having to do it all on your own anyways. You learn your own powers, you learn your own psychic awareness. And people are just sort of like you and I as professionals. I'm like, I'm picking up this. Are you picking up that? Like your peers become someone you like check things with, but you don't go to them all the time for help.
Sure.
So this is a limited stage. This is the time of teach each other. It's a stage. It's not going to always be that way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, this is it. We got to do a promo here for one program that I'm so grateful for downloading. It's called the 40 Days of Past Lives and Karma. This came to me in a vision. It sounds kind of hokey, but it did. Of, trying to help people access their past life memories through astrology. Because I knew as an astrologer, having read people, there's many parts of astrology that allude to and describe past lives that have been assembled into this lifetime for a unique experience. So we created this program that's designed to go exactly with the energy. So today, for instance, is ruled by the moon. And so we're talking about feelings that come up, and then beliefs tomorrow, and then belonging the next day. So it's lined exactly with the energy of the earth. And you, step by step, 40 steps all together, you examine your own self. And the real cherry on top brilliance of this is that we go into your childhood, because it turns out your childhood is a perfect replica of your past life arc, your past life story. So you can look at your childhood and you'll see all the signs and symbols of the planets. And so we do this journaling program where we compare the planets to your memories, and we also coach. So there's still time to join, by the way, folks. We're only on step 2. We have our 40 Days of Past Life and Karma, and we have now built what we call a cloud campus. So we've created a campus, a school campus in the clouds, which is off of our main site, where you can just buy classes one by one. If you're interested in getting a deeper look and understanding of yourself throughout time space, visit seriousjoy.cloud. Now this promo. That's a good promo. Adam did that. He did a good one. It kind of brings you into like the history of man. It's good.
Yeah.
Again, 40 Days of Past Lives in Karma. Check it out now. And it's a very low price right now, $49.95. It's normally $150, but we're just trying to roll it out there and give people a chance. So, all right. So we've got a special guest here. We like to have a guest every now and then on the show, namely once a month, because we don't want to make it all about us. And we also like people who are experts. Well, our special guest today is a past life regressionist named Jeroen DeWitt. He's a certified practitioner of Reiki, emotional freedom technique, EMF balancing technique, quantum touch, and trained directly by Dolores Cannon in the QHHT quantum healing hypnosis technique. So everyone, let's bring him on right now and say hello to Jeroen.
Hey guys.
Hi, nice to see you.
Welcome
Thanks for
on.
coming today. It's really a pleasure. I'm just curious as just a foundation here. I'm going to skip right past Erica's questions and go to what I want to say. No, how did you stumble upon this process? I mean, it sounds like you're trained in a lot of modalities. And was it hypnotherapy and then interviewing clients that you began to stumble upon the subject matter?
Well, my history is about not fitting in anywhere in society. And so when this process came along, it was the first thing that I recognized as something that felt like myself. And I had been doing like self-healing for a number of years and accessing other healing modalities. Like I started training in Reiki and all the other ones that you just listed. And then I was visiting a friend and for some healing and found a book by Dolores on the coffee table. And that was it. I was sold. So I studied and I've just never looked back.
Excellent. And did you deliberately go in then digging around past subconsciousness for past lives? What was your process?
So my process is more about like, I never fit in here because I've always gone by the notion that everything is consciousness based. And I thought that everybody else thought the same, but found out along the way that that wasn't true. So I just loved finding physical or evidence, proof of consciousness being the basis of everything. And so, I mean, we call it past lives, but it's really like alternative lives or other lives because there's no time from perspective of the self. And so I just really loved being in those realms and just noticing how much life there is out there, not just on the physical, but on all different dimensions. And so I really love doing this work.
You know what? That is a fascinating. I never put that together, Scott. Like that, we have these alternate timelines that we're living right now. You're living in 5 dimensions right now, and it's like, well, yeah, the other past lives. That's what they probably are. It's right there in front of us. Yeah.
And and Kristen, not to go too far into it so quickly, but like, do you think it's possible even our dream states that we're resolving other past incarnations when we're having our dream experiences? A lot of times I'm like, the fact I was in a different life and I got to die and I came back in here. Is it possible we can also cross connect in the present with those past life experiences, almost like we're living it in the present in a sense, in our dream space?
Oh yeah, totally. A lot of people come to me with dreams or they're exhausted when they're waking up and part of the process is talking to a person's higher self and come to find out that that's what they do. They just travel through the dimensions to either do work or to resolve things.
Huh.
Yeah, it's a fascinating. Yeah.
What else have you learned about the higher self? I mean, is that what it's termed in a session?
Well, we call it the subconscious mind, but it's basically the higher self. And so it is the part of us that really knows that it's connected or part of the universe or goddess or, creator, whatever word you like to use for that. And so it's pure unconditional love and it's very, very wise. And, it's the core of who we really are. And a lot of people in this lifetime are on the path of living it completely by purging. I heard you mention this a little bit earlier, Scott. Like, I really echo what you shared, that a lot of people in this lifetime are concerned with like purging their being of like past life, karma, trauma, to be able to be fully aligned with the higher self and be an example to others doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, can you guys give us like a little walkthrough, like your process, like how you begin the process of doing a regression for somebody?
Yeah, so some people come in with a list of questions regarding their life. It could be health issues or financial issues, relationship issues, all the stuff that we deal with as a human being on the planet. And then I first sit them down and we just talk about their current lifetime for me to get a more thorough backstory to them, like who they are and where their questions are coming from, which allows me to ask more effective questions once I start addressing their higher self. And then they're laying down on a comfortable padded massage table under a light cover. All of their clothes will be on except for their shoes. They will be off for comfort. And then I'll take them through it's like a guided visualization, and it gradually takes people into a place in their consciousness where the information just comes up. And I don't tell people what lifetime to go into. I leave it up to a person's higher self to provide them with the most appropriate healing experiences, given from the wisdom of the higher self. And so I just ask like explorative questions, open-ended questions to see where they are, what they're doing, who they are, and then it's like first we explore the scene that they're coming into, and if they're in a sort of humanoid body, then where do they live? If they have a family, how do they spend their daily life? If there's other information coming in about like belief systems or habits or customs, or if it's a historical lifetime, I try to ask about lots of trivial details to try and sort of pin it to a certain time frame in history based on those details. And then we move them forward through their lifetime. So to an important day, we have them describe it, see what happens. We kind of like leapfrog through different important days, and then towards the death day is very important. And then we move them through the death. And by the way, dying seems to be a really fun process, or easy. I mean, not the time before, but the actual leaving of the body is just such a relief for everybody. And then, we might explore the in-between life state, which is a really interesting spot to be. People either be in like the universe where they're just floating and they're sort of recombobulating, and then they will meet loved ones or guides, or they'll join their star family. There's like, the Hall of Akashic Records that they can go into. What else? There's like different classes. If you want to pick up on your compassion or like how to do certain things, then you go into a class and somebody's teaching. You might meet with your council of your council of souls that have been guiding you throughout different lifetimes to kind of go over a life review and to see what you want to do next. And then you have choices, what you want to do. Some people go back to Earth. Some people go back to another planet. People live like energy life or like light being lives. There's all kinds of options available. And so once that's complete, then I call on the higher self and I ask it like, why did you show them, these scenes? What is this all about? And so we'll explain how it is healing for the person in the current lifetime, because that's what it's all about. It's not just about past life tourism, but it's really about how can a person live their best life right now. And so we do that, and then I'll have the higher self address all the person's questions, and also have it apply healing. It's just wonderful. Like we have this innate healing power that just heals and clears things. I mean, it happens every day. People come out of sessions and their sight is now 20/20. Eczema's gone, pains and aches, diseases just gone. Yeah. And then we wrap it up, and it's a session. It takes about 4 hours.
Wow, 4 hours. That sounds like quite a trip there.
Yeah.
Probably into the cigarette.
The clothes are on, Christopher. They said clothes are on. So
right, I heard that. That's a good point. Not my past lives, baby. Not but so what's interesting is we're talking about, a lot of people think you've got to like do this. You got to go into a past life regression, hypnotherapy, which is sometimes a little, I don't know. People are a little nervous about that. Someone digging around your brain. It sounds like the people are quite awake from what you describe. Is that true?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, a lot of people come in with the notion that they think that we're going to yank them from this reality and plop them down in another one, and they have no recollection of who they are right now. That's not what it's like at all. Like hypnosis is not what you've seen on TV. I'm not going to make you quack like a chicken. It's just a very normal state that we all go through on any given day. It's just like a meditative state. Like people will be able to hear the sounds that are going on around in the room. They'll just be very focused and very relaxed on whatever inner information wants to come forward. And that's all there is. That's all.
Yeah, and
It
it's
is.
funny because I've been through these guided things before, and I go in like skeptical, like, okay, let's go. Like usually someone drug me in, but if you follow through and you ask your consciousness, like, now consciousness, show me this. I'll be damned, my consciousness will flash a picture, like
Yep.
it'll do it, and I'm like, okay, I didn't. All right, it's amazing how the conscious is very obedient, and it's not a trick or anything, and you can't deny that you didn't come up and think about. You didn't come up with that; it just showed up.
Yeah,
You can't deny it.
that's exactly right. Like people are often like they gasp in surprise, like they thought they were going to make up some stuff, but then what they make up is so random, or
Right.
they have made up some historical details that are accurate that they didn't know
Right.
before. Yeah,
Well,
Or
and
so fascinating. Like you learn
yeah,
from it.
and
You
the
learn.
connection. And the connection too is like the thing I think people should understand about like when you have a regression, it's like it's you.
exactly.
With
Yeah,
one, it's like I was describing something like as if I did it yesterday.
yeah,
And it also I encourage people to do this because they can understand why they have certain ailments or certain irrational fears in this incarnation. Which solved my irrational fears for being stabbed in my chest because I had a past life regression where I was. So yeah, it's very much like almost I think people think they feel separate or disconnected from it. You become more connected with the self and understanding more of yourself. So yeah, I think that's another great reason of doing the process the way you do it, because of course I tell people I walk them through what I'm seeing, but I think having a session when they're doing it for themselves is highly validating. Especially if they were told through a psychic or an astrologer of past life regression, going through the process themselves helps to validate because you can connect with it better. So I just want to kind of, I would say, highlight you a little bit on that in that
thank
regard
you.
about what you do and how you do it.
It's really like soul recovery.
Yeah.
Like people tap into like parts of their soul that they might have like closeted or haven't been aware of. It's like opening doors in your inner sanctuary that you haven't
Right.
explored yet, and to come out of that with a bigger sense of self that is more authentic and less based on the cultural constructs and tenets and all the rules that we're taught to live by. So it's like people get inoculated against the external determinants of disempowering determinants that we have all been raised with.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it's pain avoidance. The memory is painful, shameful, so we auto block that that memory. I found that as people clear some of their shame games and things like that, they're able to see more. The more that stuff you clear out of yourself, the more you start to see on your own authentically these little things. And I agree with Scott, like it's good to have an authority there because you're quick to dismiss it to imagination. You're quick to dismiss it to all sorts of things, sort of the science skepticism that was poured into us in fifth grade, and so I think it's really useful to have a practitioner like yourself, and you're doing really good work. Have you found? I'm curious. Have you found that people in this lifetime have mostly been just clearing karma? Because like in astrology, we're talking about modalities here. Like you can go to a practitioner like this gentleman. There's a lot of signs in your astrology, and there's a lot of signs when it's coming up in a reading with someone like Scott. Like there's a lot of ways, and that's actually how I affirm my past lives is other modalities, other practitioners, other techniques. They would report the same damn thing. Like they would see the same thing. All evidence pointed to the same thing. It was undeniable, sometimes to the letter of the T. And I have found that in this particular life of the thousands of readings I've done, it seems like that's like the obsession of this era. It's like we're finally waking up, and the first thing we got to do is clean up all these wounds because they're holding us back with irrational fear. Have you found a trend, and if so, what's next?
So yeah, that trend's definitely happening in the sessions that I'm doing. So when I ask people about their life purpose in a past life, it's not about like living their highest self. It's usually about like learning about love or community or learning about passion, stuff like that. But when I ask them about their current lifetime, the purpose is like 95% of the time it's about like loving themselves to the point where they become their higher self. And so what I think is next is that you described it in the beginning. I think we're going through a spiritual awakening, and what's happening is we're dropping from a survival-based way of living where we didn't have access to our stored and accumulated trauma and pain because there was no space to process anything. And nobody had the mindset to be able to do so because they were all traumatized through the generations going back. So the people that are kind of waking up, and waking up is really about like leaving the mind space, dropping into the heart. And what's next is I mean, it's not going to happen tomorrow, I think, but that we're going to live a life that is more heart-centered and less mind-based, which means that
That's
we're
right.
going to be living in the here and now, have complete faith and trust in ourselves as part of Source. And so it's what you described earlier. So we won't need any more dictators or rulers. We become heart-centered and heart-based, and we'll just be connecting to people in that manner where, all the divisions that we are experiencing right now are just of no importance. I mean, there will be a difference of opinions, but there will be the heart connection first.
To be the more objectivity about the differences. And I always say, like, really loving yourself is really knowing truly yourself. And the past life regressions, I think sometimes past life regression is a side effect of diving deep into learning more about yourself. So of course, I'm sure when you see clients, kind of making that realization of self, my question is kind of like, what is the most transformative session that you can recount, during your practice that you can kind of, share with us?
I mean, there's so many.
Right, it's hard to narrow it down. I know.
So
Take us through the generalization of a transformation process when people, have their awakening.
So I mean, it's always, for me, it's fun, like when a higher self goes into like the science of the healing, and it's very, very specific, and it uses jargon that the person wouldn't use. Like when I ask it to heal, say, a thyroid, that comes up a lot, would tell me, and I'll ask it, like, how are you healing this? I'm talking to the higher self, and it says, well, we're going to go into the quantum field, and then we're going to move the DNA around, in the quantum level, and what it will do is it will extend the telomeres, and then it's like super scientific, and so, I mean, and then people coming out of their session being cleared and healed, and I get texts and emails all the time. Let me see if I can pull one up, like, to have an example that's specific. So people, this lady came out of her session seeing 20/20 vision, like have people scheduled for LASIK surgery, and they come out of it and they pop their eyes open and everything's clear.
Wow.
Yeah, bones are.
That is amazing.
Yeah, bones can be moved back into place even.
Yeah.
Like I see people's bodies contort and they come out of it like their hips being realigned. It's not in every session, but these things happen. Right. We all have access. It's all in us. This sort of stuff. So, and then also emotional health or mental health. When people, they're at their last sort of like the session is their last resort because they've been living a really shitty life, and then to find like a new lease on life that is. I mean, that's really, for me, the most beautiful, because it's kind of like my journey that I've been on. I always felt like I wasn't good enough. I didn't fit in. I couldn't find a home in the world at all. And so I had my own sort of spiritual breakdown, like back in the late 90s. And I needed to learn to love myself. And I didn't know that's what I was doing in the beginning, but this is what it's been leading into. And so when I see people do that, when they've been so hopeless, not really knowing who they are and having lived life by, again, the rules of society, and it just shutting them down completely because it makes them unhappy. And then finding enough of a foundation of self-love in a session where now they have something to go from, where they can use to navigate life based on what feels good to them and to find joy and to be in their purpose, which is, I mean, that's for me even more beautiful than the physical healings that take place.
Yeah, I think people have to understand too, like, this isn't a quick fix. You can't say, oh, I want a regression just because I want to, I have a pain that I've created in this lifetime because I eat shitty, right? Like, people understand, like, this is the exploration of knowing the self, and the side effect is it can heal, ailments that could be carried on from previous incarnations. I think so many people go into these circumstances like, I got to be healed. This is going to be the thing that's going to heal me. And then they fall short of the actual understanding of the process. And so those, I think people should understand, and this is kind of prefacing, what we were saying before. I feel people are thinking, oh, well, I'm going to go get this will heal me. This will finally heal me. It's like, no, your understanding of self will heal you. And I just want to make sure people understand that.
Thank you for clarifying that. That's exactly how it is. Not like making a list for Santa Claus, like, hey, check this off. And,
right.
Cure this, cure this.
And healing, it can happen in so many different ways. And because the ailments that we're experiencing, what I hear in spiritual circles a lot is that, oh, I've made myself sick, or you've made yourself sick. And that is not at all what I subscribe to. live in an environment that is made us sick. We live in an environment that made us lose contact with or connection to our higher self. At some point, the body will start to complain and bring that up and try to bring it to awareness. It's not like you've made yourself sick. This is just what life did to you. So the healing that takes place in a session, yes, it can be done instantaneously, but not always, because there's different reasons for an ailment to be there. I had a woman that was experiencing breast cancer. The higher self says the breast cancer is actually her friend. It's her friend because it reminds her that she needs to love herself. She spent her life putting other people's needs first, and this is not what she's here for. She's here to live a life of self-love so she can be the inspiration to others. And so we will take the breast cancer away right now, but if she falls off the wagon again and starts going back into her codependent mechanisms, then it will come back. Another woman who was experiencing lupus and look at the higher self, and it goes, well, yes, we can heal it completely, but we're not going to. And so I go, well, why are you being such a dick? Why can't
higher self?
Yes, come on. And so I asked, why would you only heal half of it? And it said, well, she's in a marriage that is not serving her. And if there's no physical discomfort, she will not leave it. So we'll leave 50% of it. So she has enough push to get out of it. But once she's out of it, then we will heal the rest. Sometimes ailments are there for a person to learn something specific, so they'll hang on to it for a while because the lesson isn't complete yet, but at least they now kind of know what it's about. And so they have a different relationship to the disease or to the ailment. It's really fascinating.
It is.
I'm so surprised every time the reasons come up.
Doing readings myself, I'm getting past flashes psychically of their little moments. The stuff I learned just in that moment, that I learned about how humans work and how things manifest and unfold, the universe is so creative in ways that you would just never imagine. And that's one of the things that just makes you believe, because you're just like, what? Who would have thought of that? It's clearly coming out of some other awareness beyond my life and what I've experienced.
Right.
And also, of course, the body getting sick is, it's the embodiment of the soul. So it's like a carbon copy of what's going on spiritually. So, I see this all the time too, where people, they manifest these diseases in their soul, but it's playing the script perfectly. The body's playing the role it's meant to play, which is to break down that area as a representation of the area that's broken down in a spiritual sense. It's really interesting. I'm also fascinated by relationships, in past lives. Have you been able to track any, done past lives for four sisters or something like that, where you can kind of see the full map of how they've all been, hanging out in past lives? One trend that I see quite often is in married couples and you'll see too, you can see clearly in their energy, the man's kind of feminine and the woman's kind of masculine, but it's very strong that she was the man in the last life and he was the woman. And there's an agreement now where they're going to trade roles and see what it was how they were each bitches to each other the last time. And you can see it over and over. This is a pattern I see over and over again in modern marriage, where the couple will come back opposite gender. Have you noticed trends like that with relationships?
Oh yeah, we come back in all kinds of different sort of configurations. We might have been lovers in a past life, and now we're siblings, or we're parent and child. We try out different configurations. It's before we go in, we kind of get our soul family together and we figure out what do I want to learn? What do you want to learn? And, I go, well, I want to learn to love myself. And then, the other soul might say, okay, I'm going to come in as this hot guy. And then, I'm going to be a narcissistic asshole to you. And then, you'll feel so shitty that finally you'll have to choose yourself. I go, great. That sounds fantastic. Up top, let's go. And so, yeah, we try out all kinds of different ways of being together to heal and to learn. A lot of people come in and they've been with a partner and they come in with the question well, I never want to be in a life with him again. And then come to find out that they were their loved friend on the other side, their soul that was here to to be their teacher. So yeah, it's not like we can make that happen, because it's just a completely different perspective. So yeah, we come back over and over again with the same soul group to have some kind of to experience the other side of the coin for both parties.
Yeah, it literally is like a costume party. I mean, it seems like life itself is just one big costume party, or one big drama club play that we put on. We all just get excited, and jump in. Do you have any? Have you seen any insight into the architecture of how we incarnate? I mean, I've heard stories that we're asleep up in heaven right now, and that this is the dream. I've heard stories that we funnel down, our energy slows down to a low slow speed. I'm just curious myself on how that jump works. Have you seen anything?
Yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, it's kind of different in the way that people experience it because,
Yeah.
the other realm is not quantifiable by our senses, our human senses. So it's all kind of different from one person to the next. But it seems to be like some people describe it as going down a chute, kind of like an experience of like sliding down or like taking on more density. And then, most of us end up in the womb either just after birth or going through the birth canal or just before.
Yeah.
A lot of,
Yes.
yeah.
That's
And so,
fascinating. That's when the soul merges with the body for the last time.
yeah.
In fact, the
souls-
baby's breath, I mean, this astrology is based on the baby's breath is the final merger of inside out, outside in.
Yeah. I mean, again, there's no rules. Some souls really want to experience being in the womb, or they just visit from time to time, or they might want to experience what it's like to like be an abortion. That's also possible, or a miscarriage.
That's
So these are all options. There's no rules of like, you've killed a soul or anything like that.
Right.
There's no need to feel guilty about it, or if you have an abortion or a miscarriage, it's all like contracted. This is what everybody, all parties want to experience.
I love that you said that too, because I get a lot of clients who like question about their miscarriage, the soul that they maybe terminated, and I always say no, that was contractual. They chose one experience, that little portion of life, and so, which leads me to more questions about how you deal with your view on karma, because I always feel like karma is not just about punishment; it's about taking memories and expanding memory too of our experience to expand our soul consciousness and awareness. So like, how do you deal with when it comes to like karmic debts and any type of karmic unresolved? We're kind of talking about that. I want to see more of your precise perspective on the role of karma in your past life regression work.
Yeah, I
And
don't.
how you address it.
Yeah, so karma is not punishment. Karma is just teachings and learnings. There is no punishing force. There's no big godhead that keeps the score. Like you're bad, you're good. By what rules anyway? Like
Exactly.
it doesn't make any sense. So I mean, karma is just really like wanting to experience coming. I mean, when I hear people talk about going into the next life and what they want to learn, is like, oh, I just didn't get this. So this time around, so I'm gonna come back and. Like for myself, like I've had a past life in the north of France where I was a bit of an asshole. Like I was raised as an orphan in an orphanage, and I learned to get ahead in life by like over the backs of other people. And I was meant to move more into my heart that lifetime, but I didn't. I just was an asshole. I had a wife who I bullied terribly. And then, I wasn't very a feeling type of person. And guess what? This lifetime, I'm very, very sensitive. I'm very much feeling based. And so I'm experiencing the full like spectrum of feelings. Like it knocks me out sometimes. And it's not like, I'm being punished for being an asshole. Actually, in that lifetime, my soul was split off in both the man and the woman to experience both those sides of the bully and the bullied. But in this lifetime, I just want to experience what it's like to get a more rounded experience. So if people come in with questions regarding karma, it can either be cleared as like the higher self will say, well, I'm just going to clear this whole layer off their being because it's no longer needed. If it's still a lesson that is still like active, they're still learning through it, they get the message about what it is so they can release it. Or they can like dissolve their contract sometimes as well. Like if the intended lesson is no longer, like they've gone down a different path in life and the intended lesson is no longer serving them, then it can be released or not. The soul might say, they're still learning self-love in this like shitty relationship, but they know what it's about. This is what they can focus on, and they can resolve it and then live a more realized life for themselves.
It seems like the only law is finish your plate. Like there's something circular about consciousness. So from what I've seen in my own third eye and seen this in charts, it's like if you go down this direction, God universe wants you to go all the way around the block and see the whole 360 of it. Like for some reason, that to me is to some degree that we all end up doing. Because I see it all the times. The pagans become the Christians become the pagans. Like you become the one who hurt the one who got hurt. Like you're always seeing that opposite side. Even with the two, the wife and husband who switch genders. So it seems like that's like sort of like finish your plate, see the whole, understand the whole thing kind of thing.
But it's not like Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Oh,
It's
good.
not like there's just some big godhead that says, finish your plate. You want to, as a soul, you want to be
Right.
well-rounded. You see the other souls that are sparkly from a shitty life experience, where they've cleared a lot of stuff and they've gained so much wisdom and they expanded so much, and they go, oh my God, I want what she's having. So let me go back into life and like
Right.
do a bunch of shitty experiences,
You're
or not.
right.
But you
But that's
don't have to. You can choose to go other places. There's no force. Like, yes, Earth can be a prison planet, but only if the soul opted into it. They
right.
want to experience, to be in this prison for a while and to be in the wheel of karma. Like, it's not forced. As a soul, you choose this. Like, you are part of source. There is no such thing that you are being held captive by the evil forces. You might want to experience that for a while, but it's not. It's all opted into. It's a
Mhm.
I
learning
agree.
experience to expand.
And I think it's very important to emphasize because we desire this. And so those who are having such difficulty, if we can at least consider why did we desire this? Like why are we desiring this aspect? We'll kind of understand the realization how to expand out of it. And so I'm glad you mentioned that too, because I know a lot of people feel like they're in this kind of dictatorship with God in a sense. And it's like, no, we were hungry to come here. We were hungry to get our hands dirty.
Yeah.
So I just want to highlight that too, because that's important too of what allows us to evolve. We want to grow. We want to evolve. We want to become like all that is by experiencing all that is. And so it's on our timing. So I tell people, if you don't want to come back to planet Earth, well, then you clearly might take a step back from growth and intensity. But, at some point you might decide it again. But I think that's great. I just want to highlight that and say how much I agree with that completely. I want people to really understand that this way they don't feel a victim to their life or reality. Because we have a lot of that happening, right, Jeroen? A lot of people are feeling like a victim to reality because what's going on. It's like, no, we've amplified the challenges in our collective so we can actually, I say the more challenges we have in our collective, the more we're expanding and the more we're becoming more unified, actually, which is how I see that. So I want to just really give a nod to that. I agree with that 100%.
Totally, yes. Like, our outer experience is a reflection of our inner reality, and that's the tools or that's the mechanism by which we learn. So, if the challenges are amped up, life is really trying to tell you, or to really go inward, to really start to relate to yourself, rather than to keep coasting on like this codependency and hypnosis that we've all been in for so long.
Nice.
Yeah. It's interesting. And do you see that, but do you see some sort of like bind to Earth though? It seems like once you get in, can we just go off in another system right away? Or do we have to finish some sort of lesson plan? It seems like there is some sort of fine print that you have to follow.
To me, there is none. We are sovereign souls. It's just like you
It's just that
want to
everyone's
do
doing
this.
it. You wanna be-
Once you start to experience one thing, then you want to experience the other side of it. And then as you go into a lifetime, there's other stuff that goes on, and then you want to like experience the other side of that. So it's like Earth is coveted as an experience because there is such diversity and variety of experiences to be had. There's free will, so there's all kinds of fractal branches that you can go off into that you want to experience. It's really, and so it's coveted. It's not like you're punished to be on Earth. Like, this is where you can expand the most, because it is such a dense, limited place. Like, we've been living in this space of feeling disconnected from source and from each other, and that allows us. It's like when you're playing Monopoly, there has to be rules there of like, how many steps to take and getting the cards, or else the game wouldn't be fun. There would be no game if the outcome of it. So the limitations that we apply to ourselves being on this planet are there to help us expand, to move from the belief that we're singular and separate to expanding within the knowledge that we are all God.
That's right.
So fascinating. Yeah, I heard the Palladians talk through a channel, and they were literally joking and laughing about how silly Earthlings are sometimes to them, because we have all this ability to be creative and do anything we want, and we all copy each other all the time. Like why would you do that? Why would you incarnate and not take advantage? It's funny, but I think it's the systems on Earth that we've sort of programmed to and programmed down. Well, one final note from me. I'd like to know, have you seen our future? I mean, is there hints? Do you have a collective view of sort of where Earth is going next by watching all these past lives? Do you have a prediction?
So yeah, what I hear over and over again is that we are moving into a more heart-centered place. It is going to be really beautiful. We're more connected to nature, and we're recovering, the ancient wisdoms that indigenous people of the world are still holding on to. They've been the guardians of this knowledge that is more in sync with the planet and with nature. But yeah, there's some cleanup to be done, and that's the space that we're going through right now. So this is a space with challenges that we're in right now. But afterwards, we're going to like a new earth. That's what I hear over and again.
Great. Yeah, I guess it's the same message. People still don't listen. So, well, it's real nice.
It's bigger
to meet
than
you.
great, Christopher. It's like, wow, it's bigger than just great. It's like, wow, it's amazing. So,
So yeah, it feels like it's gonna be great. It's hard to believe.
It's sometimes I hesitate talking about it too much because there are many people that just want to like press pause on life right now and just say, I'm just going to wait it out. Like, when is it going to happen? Is it going to be March 5th? Is it going to be next year?
Right.
When are we going to hit 5D? Not realizing that you are here to make 5D happen. And by loving yourself, by dropping into the heart, by purging your own system from the violent beliefs that you've had to take on. And once you do that, you're up level. You create a bigger bubble with other people that are doing the same thing of this 5D consciousness that's coming in. And that is what will create the shift. That's what will make it happen. So it's not about like just sheltering in place and just holding on and waiting until it's going to shift. It's about actively like finding love and joy in your life today, right now.
Well, because then they'll miss it, because if they're just waiting for it to happen, they'll sleep through it, they'll miss it, or it'd be torturous to them when it evolves with 5D. They won't comprehend it. So in order to connect with it, we got to expand our awareness to 5D perspective too. So I agree wholeheartedly with that.
Or you'll be part of the crowd that has to be at the front lines of the cataclysms because they need to wake up. Like, it's a fast track to waking up.
Right, exactly.
100%.
Depending on where you are in your awakened state, how much we have to shake you to wake up, or whatever. How much you have to be shaken, not stirred. Well, Jeroen, tell us, our viewers, how they can connect with you in your next virtual group, Past Life Regression, which I hear is happening on March 29th. Or how can they get a one-on-one with you also in LA?
So I do sessions in person, and I am based in the Valley, San Fernando Valley in Los Angeles. I see people Wednesdays through Sundays. You can find me on Instagram. That's the best way to connect with me. It's my first name. This is always a little tricky. Jeroen. Excuse me. My affirmation is love. So Jeroen is love on Instagram, and you can DM me, or in the link tree, you can find ways to book sessions. I just had somebody reschedule their session for tomorrow. So if somebody wants to come in tomorrow for a private session, I have an opening. Otherwise, I'm now booking for the end of excuse me.
Oh, well, we found that person.
For the end of April. So that's where you can find me. My website is my first name, Jeroen, JeroenQHHT.com.
Yay. I bet you that person will be destined, because they would have had watch here, and got found out now. And that alarm was their little thing, because that's the alarm they use on their phone that tells them when they're doing something right.
The awakening alarm.
Right. Like all that kind of synchronicity.
Serendipitous.
Yeah, it was great. It was great talking to you. We'd love to have you on again sometime, like to go deeper in a new direction with this now that we've got the foundation out. It's a fascinating topic. And
I'd love to talk about like all the different kinds of past lives and alien lives that people go into. It's just fascinating.
Oh, let's do that. And talk about how children are being born now knowing. Like, I think the new thing will be, you'll know.
Yep.
Like,
sorry,
you're out of a job. Like it's not going to happen if they're just wake
up.
We're going to accept, because a lot of kids will just sit there and tell you, and you're like, okay. I have parents telling me, like, he was telling me that he was this. I'm like, just embrace it, support it. Like,
Have you listened to Telepathy Tapes podcast?
No, I haven't. Is it good?
Oh, it's recommended. It's about people, nonverbal autistic people that are of the new consciousness. And this is what's coming into my sessions as well, that these people are like the trailblazers for new consciousness. They're super connected. They have this telepathic communication. They're very like competent in what they're doing. Fascinating.
Wow.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, you shift it one way, you open up other things. It's interesting how this whole wave of autism and this whole wave, perhaps medically, triggered by things in our diet and whatnot, but still a spiritual intention to explore something as a result of.
They're really absolute light workers.
Yeah. Wow. We could talk to you forever. Well, thanks for coming on, buddy.
Thanks, Jeroen.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
See you in the next live.
Bye.
Stay backstage, okay, if you can.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, that was great.
Yeah.
Ron, for coming on. Good job from Erica, our producer. I guess this is where we wrap up. But we do a little promo here and talk about you, buddy. Don't you have a show on tonight?
Yes, I do have my live show tonight, as every Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Tonight I'm talking about breaking soul chains, which can also correlate into past life connections they need to heal and resolve. So we'll get into that tonight, and also be doing some live readings too, as always. So join me, Scott Cruz PM on YouTube, here on YouTube.
It's how I fell in love with Scott. I started watching him. No, a friend. No, it's true though. A friend recommended. I know well, and I went. I saw you were on Instagram at that time. On Instagram's bitches, and I was just like, oh my god, this guy. I know him. I know this guy. I know this guy.
Yeah.
I know him. Yeah. So it's been
Let's get into our past life connections too at some point.
Yeah, we totally will. Yeah, as they're unfolding. Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's always been the same thing: mentoring and bitching each other, but keeping each other in check. Well, thanks, Jeroen, for coming for coming tonight and his insights. It was amazing, and we're grateful for him. And next week, you guys got to join us. We're going to delve into ascension. What is ascension? What the hell is that? Ascension now, and the new moon in Pisces, and how to be a part of it.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. I think there's other close for you. Okay. So.
Did I miss something in our?
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, so basically it's just like get to know yourself and your past lives better in this Pisces season. In the meantime, don't settle for shit, my friend. Lead out loud. We'll see you next week.
Good night, guys. See you tonight.
Okay. Very cool.
That was great. I mean, it's always fascinating to hear somebody else's approach to, the past life, energy and how they work with that. So, because we all do it in different ways. So,
yeah, well,
I love seeing we all feel and see it the same way. And have the same insight. I love that.
We're all seeing the same stuff. Yep. You can see that you can really see the old systems melting because we're all saying the same thing. We're all seeing the same thing.